Hello, and welcome to Sideways. Have you ever felt completely unseen? As if the people around you don't really respect, understand, or even notice you? This week, we're talking about what factors play a role in creating a feeling of invisibility, and how we can often be the architect ourselves because of mistaken beliefs we developed right back in childhood. Having racked up 147 episodes, Martin has some interesting facts about snooker and hard drinking. We ask, can lager ever be tax deductible? And we remember with much fondness the habit we had in the 70s and 80s of making mixtapes, an art lost on the streaming generation. Am I invisible? Hello.
Good morning. Are you backing from the damp outside now, are you?
Yeah, I was a bit miffed because I forgot to take my waterproof trousers.
Well, that's going out this early in the day to take your dogs in the wet, in the rain. It's going to happen, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, waterproof trousers I found are a double-edged sword because they're good in as much as they keep your trousers dry because they're an over trouser, obviously. But they're bad in as much as they make you look like a complete dick.
A look you carry off very well, may I say. I used to wear them when I had a motorbike. I used to wear them. Yeah.
Did you? I bet you carried off the look of being a complete dick quite well too.
Absolutely, yeah, I did. Yeah, to a T.
To a TT.
Hey, now we're going. We're off already.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's fine because as I think I wasn't grateful for it a couple of weeks ago, going out in the rain because you can come back in and get dry again.
That's exactly what you said. So you were okay with that, were you, today?
It's fine. I don't mind being in the rain, to be fair. I mean, obviously, if it's really, really hammering it down, it's not much fun. But I don't really mind. I mean, what's so bad about getting wet?
No, you're right. It's not too bad. It's bitterly cold as well at the same time. I find that tiresome.
Yeah, cold and wet's not funny. But anyway, there we are.
Anyway,
we're talking about the weather again.
Yeah, don't we always? We get on with what we're supposed to be talking about, which is this week. It's about feeling invisible.
Who said that?
Well, it's an issue that comes up in groups from time to time, so I thought it's quite worthy of speaking about.
That joke I just made was so bad it went straight over your head, didn't it?
I wasn't even listening, mate. No. What did you say?
I said when you said we're talking about feeling invisible, and I said, who said that?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
no, it wasn't very funny, was it?
It's completely unfunny. You're damp in the head. That's what's been going on.
Okay, yeah. Anyway.
So, yeah, it does come up in groups. I mean, it's strange because in active addiction, obviously, we crave isolation and invisibility, but it turns out that may well have been one of the reasons, feeling invisible, that we drifted into using drink and drugs in the first place. But it was also sparked by an article that I read that it was about how people can start to feel invisible when they reach a certain age. Now, it was written by a lady, so perhaps it's more acute for women than it is for men. I don't know about that, but
do you think we've reached a certain age when we?
I think so. Yeah. I do. Yeah, I feel a level of invisibility.
Okay, so yeah. I was just going to say, I don't know if you're coming back to the article that you read. Are you going to come back to that in the main body of the episode?
Not particularly, no.
Oh, because I was just thinking one of the ways in which I know that ladies of a certain age do feel invisible, because I've had this conversation with clients over the years, and that is when it comes to the dating game.
Okay, yeah.
Because older men always want to go out with younger women, and so women get to an age where they think, well, what am I? Chopped liver.
Yeah, quite.
But that's much less about women being of a certain age than it is about men failing to reach any sort of emotional maturity.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're very, very culpable, aren't we, in that situation? Anyway, but yeah, before we start, we've reached the 3-year mark. I think I briefly mentioned it last week, which is nice, isn't it? But this is episode number 147.
Oh, like a snooker break,
exactly,
a maximum snooker break.
Exactly right. We've got 15 reds, haven't we? 15 blacks, and all the colours.
Yeah, we've cleared up, haven't we?
We have cleared up. It reminded me when I when I was putting these notes together and realised that was the episode, it reminded me of, do you remember that Canadian snooker player, Bill Werbeniuk?
He used to like a lager, didn't he?
Well, yeah, it was in the 80s. I think he reached his highest ranking sort of during the early 80s in the world. He didn't really win a great deal, but yeah, I was looking at him because he was a famous drinker, wasn't he? He had, I looked this up once I realised what the episode number was, and yeah, he used to have 6 pints before a match, all right, and then he'd have a pint each frame. But they reckoned he was legendary. But afterwards, he just carry on. They reckoned. Now, reports vary on this, and things get exaggerated over the years. But I've seen various reports. But he could be drinking anything between 40 and 50 pints a day. Can you imagine?
Up.
No, I know. It doesn't seem to be enough time for that, does there? But and there was a myth I remember hearing a long time ago that he got his lager on prescription, which I couldn't find anything to corroborate that. But what it did allude to is that his doctor at one point, because he had these tremors, the doctor advised him, so, well, if you have some alcohol before the game, that'll calm that down. Now, whether that would, I'm sure a doctor in today's world wouldn't say that, and whether that is actually true or not, it was probably because he was probably withdrawing. I suspect that's what the tremors were all about. But
so do you think it's fair to say that Bill Werbeniuk might have had a drink problem?
I think he had a little bit of an issue there, didn't he?
I mean, if he really was, I find 40, 50 pints difficult to believe. But
yeah, I do.
If he was drinking that sort of volume, he did quite well to live as long as he did, didn't he?
Well, he did. I mean, he died. He died of heart failure, which is probably no surprise.
No surprise. Yeah,
when he just turned 56. So it had a major impact upon his life.
Perhaps there's something about Canadian snooker players, because of course one of his contemporaries was Kirk Stevens, who attracted the nickname Coke Stevens. He did, yeah. He liked a line, didn't he?
He did like a line before a game, yeah.
Do you think he lined it up on his snooker cue just as he was queuing?
I suppose he could do it as he's going along, yeah. But I think you're glamorising it now, so we've got to move on. But the only thing I could find on him about Bill Werbeniuk is that he managed to persuade the Inland Revenue, I don't know what the name of it is in Canada, that the 6 pints beforehand was a deductible expense. So he could knock that off of his tax bill.
What, legitimate business expense?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose a lot of people would do that now for their Christmas parties, wouldn't they?
Yeah, probably, yes.
I suppose if you think about it, if you go back to the corporate days when we used to be in the corporate world, if you went away for a meeting or something, I expect you'd be putting your bar tab on your expenses, wouldn't you? Find some way of doing it.
You would, yeah. Exactly right.
So let's not single out Bill Werbeniuk. We've all been there, haven't we?
I'm not having a pop at him. Because he managed to slide that through. That's for sure. We've all done that in the past. You're right.
I mean that's a step forward on from claiming a few stamps, isn't it? That you haven't bought.
It is really. Yeah. But anyway. I don't think. I mean, he was quite a striking figure, wasn't he? He was quite.
Do you mean fat?
Yeah, I was going to. Yes, he was. He was like he certainly didn't look invisible, did he?
No, I mean I can call him fat because I used to be fat. I think you have to have been fat to be able to call someone else fat, don't you think?
Okay.
Do you think that's reasonable?
Yes, yes, it is. It is. But I was looking up what does it mean to feel invisible? I mean, we've probably all got our own sort of definitions on that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to go and answer my door. So Amazon things just arrived. There we go.
What is it?
Well, it's a present actually for my daughter.
Oh, okay. Then I won't give you too much abuse for that.
No, it's her birthday next week, so something I ordered.
I was just thinking before you go on, I can't get the 6 pints before a frame out of my head with Bill Werbeniuk. Of course, when we used to play snooker, we used to have 6 pints before a frame as well, didn't we?
We probably did, yeah, but we weren't doing it at a professional level, and we certainly weren't. We weren't break building, were we, at that stage? We were more like break dancing on the floor.
Right. Anyway, what does it mean to be invisible?
Yes. I mean, looking at the research. And I don't know if you relate to it. I related to some of it, but it's a bit like, you feel that you don't matter. If you're not a vital part of things, or if you feel like you're being overlooked or seen only for what you can do instead of who you are, you're sort of an object, not a real person. I think that seemed to come up in most of the articles I was reading about this particular situation.
Yeah, I think it can be a result of something actually happening to you, can't it? Like you're being ostracized because of who you are, or because of a social group you belong to. But it can also come, a feeling of invisibility can also come from within. You can expect people to not notice you, not recognize you, and that then can, it can become a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy.
I think people perhaps feel invisible because they feel invisible to themselves. Yeah. They ignore probably by ignoring their own feelings and putting other people's needs above their own, and accepting one-sided relationships. That seemed to come up quite a lot. Treating that as the norm, you start to become less of a person. You become invisible.
Yeah, if you take that as an example, if you are someone who serially accepts one-sided relationships, i.e., the other person has all the space and all the power in the relationship, and you are invisible, essentially, then that's coming from somewhere, isn't it? That's coming from that's really originating from your own sense of self. Because nobody can treat you like that unless you are prepared to be treated like that. So I'm not suggesting that if you're in a relationship like that, it's your fault. I'm just saying that it is emanating from your sense of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, relationships can develop into that kind. It can start out fairly on equal footing, and then over time, that it becomes unbalanced.
Yeah. But again, and I've often had this conversation with people where they will seemingly constantly pick unsuitable partners, where they always end up in that situation. Yeah. And they always say to me, but I don't know that he or she's going to be like that when I meet them. And I say, you do. Something in you does. Something in you sees in them a pattern that you're familiar with. And I think, what we're saying here is that pattern is coming from a willingness in yourself to be always one down, invisible, not thought about, disrespected. So it's not that you're deliberately putting yourself into that situation, or you are at fault because your partner is treating you like that, but it is coming from something probably way back in your past, probably from childhood, where you kind of have learned that you are not as valuable as other people.
Yeah, I think especially if you're suffering from any sense of shame, I think you're right, because I think that the shame will almost whisper to you, won't it, that you're not as worthy as other people. You're not as important. And I think that invisibility then, if you're not careful, can start to define you, can't it?
Do you think that would make sense that you would feel like that in active addiction?
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely
and you were very good at being invisible in active addiction.
Yes. Yes.
We talked before about, how you would not open the door to, visitors and so on. You do your best to be completely anonymous. But I'm interested into what extent that you feel that extends then through recovery, that sort of overhang of, this is my past. Yeah. I now feel it's difficult to inhabit my rightful space in the world because I do feel shame. To what extent do you think that happens?
It happens all the time. And it varies in the time scale as to when you start to feel that you are back in society and you are less invisible. Because as I said at the start of this episode, we sort of crave invisibility. We're quite happy with that. What
do you think are the contributing factors then? What helps someone in recovery to make that transition from feeling invisible, perhaps, wanting to be invisible, and getting back to a point where they are able to say, no, actually, I deserve to be a part of this society just the same as anybody else? What are the factors that contribute to that, do you think?
The major factor is putting the work in. And making sure you do the detox properly and do your rehab course or go to rehab, and then to ensure that you participate with others, participate in groups, and you gradually start to get this sense of connection rather than disconnect, which has been such a massive part of our overall life.
Yeah, so you've got to practice. So you have to practice.
You do
emotional connection with other people who, with whom it feels possible for you to do that practice, which obviously is peer support, right?
Which is where peer support works, yeah, because you do start to connect. You do start to suddenly feel part of a group again, and therefore part of society again, which is a lovely feeling. But it takes a while. I think your recovery. Your recovery is underway when you do get to that point. When you start to feel at ease with yourself again. When you start to like yourself again. It takes a while and it takes work, but it's nice when you get there.
Yeah.
Depression. That seemed to come up quite a lot as well, that if, it sometimes is part of depression. And if it's part of depression, sometimes it can be sort of imagined or misperceived that you're invisible when perhaps you're not. But it seemed to manifest itself within that particular mental health condition.
Yeah, I think because with depression, I always think of depression as being characterized by a disconnection from the world and a disconnection from yourself.
Yeah.
And if you think about, obviously it's impossible to literally disconnect from yourself, but if you think of that concept, a disconnect, so stepping away from the world, stepping away from yourself, abandoning yourself, if you like, then of course you are invisible. And you also want to be, because often when people are depressed, they feel so unworthy, so lacking in value, that they prefer to be invisible, because the thought of anyone seeing them is so shame-inducing that it feels worse than not being seen at all.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think perpetuates depression, one of the things that makes it so difficult to climb out of, is the thing you most want, connection, is the thing you least feel able to either find in yourself or do with other people.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting what you said before about that transition, because I think that it's we can see ourselves as a condition rather than as a person sometimes. So you do get a sense of invisibility. And that's where it's a joy when you start to move away from that. But it's certainly we tend to find also people coming into groups, and it happens quite often. They come in with a real level of shyness as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, now shyness, sometimes people get perceived in society. I'm sure you've come across people where they seem a little bit strange, a little bit weird because they're so shy. But it's social anxiety, isn't it? I mean, and it can be so severely paralyzing at times. And that leads to them feeling quite invisible when they're not joining in.
Yeah, I think part of the difficulty we have in Western society, I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but certainly we have been taught to really value extroversion, charisma. Yeah. And so if you are kind of naturally quieter, more inward looking, more reflective, then it's very easy, I think, for you to feel invisible, because your kind of preference for standing back and not always being kind of front and center, you have this kind of sense that, well, actually, this isn't really what society expects, is it? Society expects you to be, getting out there and connecting and networking and stuff, and not everyone wants to do that. So I think, for people who are more introverted naturally, making your way in the world is more difficult. Yeah, it is.
It is, and that's why people often will turn to drink and drugs as a social crutch, to make them feel like they're more able to connect.
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're trying to appear more normal, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
It's not. So if you feel it's difficult for you to socialize, it's very easy for you to reflect on that and say, oh, there must be something wrong with me because I'm not like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, I think, is, we do people a great disservice when we allow them to grow up under that misapprehension.
You're absolutely right. And that comes back to also things like, gender identity, or your race, or your sexuality, or again, your age, we talked about before. Those things you can't control, but they can sometimes make you feel marginalised and feel invisible. But I think you touched on childhood. I don't know, you like looking at people's childhoods. It's the root of so many issues that can come up later in life. And that came up again in my research on this, feeling invisible. Certainly neglect in childhood.
Emotional neglect, really.
Emotional neglect. And especially you come across it, that children of addicts, for example.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's emotional neglect.
Yeah. Yeah, or people that have like stay away parents, the ones that are always away at work all the time, working long hours, you never see them, or working away, away from the family home. And And that's got to lead to a feeling of invisibility, hasn't it, in the child?
Well, it certainly can. I mean, it's kind of they're prime conditions, aren't they?
Yeah.
The other, so emotional neglect, any sort of emotional neglect, whether it's deliberate or whether it comes about because of a set of circumstances, like your parent is an addict, for example.
Yeah.
But also, sometimes invisibility is a survival strategy for children. If you grow up in a physically abusive house,
yeah,
you will probably learn that keeping your head down, not getting into trouble, not making a noise, not being seen is the easiest way of you avoiding violence. And so it kind of works both ways. If you experience emotional neglect, you can feel invisible. And if you experience physical abuse, you can decide to be invisible because it's a safe strategy. And as we've discussed so many times before, once you develop a habit and a belief in childhood, it is incredibly difficult to shake it.
Yeah.
We think that, I can't possibly, I'm in my 40s or 50s now. I can't possibly be still behaving as I did when I was a child, but you bloody can.
Yes, I agree. Do you think something that, again, we've discussed in other episodes about the sort of language that's used towards us as a child that can make us feel a little bit more invisible? Things like, you've got to grow a thicker skin, or, you've got to toughen up a bit. And it's almost suggesting there's something wrong with your empathic nature. And you'll move away from you start to move towards that invisibility where it's much more of a comfortable place to be.
Yeah, I mean, when parts of us are dismissed in childhood, it's like a partial invisibility, isn't it? So the classic, I suppose, something that you and I would both understand. Although it didn't happen so much in my household. If you grew up as a man in our generation or any generation before, I think it is thankfully changing a bit now. It was very common to be told, don't be emotional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that emotional part of you is being repressed. It's being dismissed. It's being devalued. You're being told there's no value in that. Mm. And so you are growing up partially invisible because what you're doing is you're disconnecting from that emotional part of you. Other people, your family, are disconnecting from it. And then when you need it in adult life, it becomes quite often very, very difficult to find. So, yeah, I think the way that we're spoken to in childhood has a massive impact. Children should be seen and not heard. That's a classic.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't, again, I don't really remember hearing that, but I know certainly that was something of our generation and before.
Was. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it was ever rolled out to me, but you heard it said a lot, didn't you? Almost.
I think there was an awareness of it. I think there was a sense of it. When we were kids, if your parents had friends round or whatever, there were grown-ups there. It was like you were, you had to be kind of careful what you say. I mean, I know you can't go in effing and blinding when you're 7 years old when there's a dinner party, but I think invisibility in its kind of broadest context is about the shame that we feel in ourselves can be triggered and encouraged often in childhood, quite unwittingly sometimes.
So how do we move away from that? Especially
no idea.
It's been ingrained from such an early age. I was hoping you'd come up with something, but
I'll tell you the other thing. The other place that invisibility really comes from, and that's bullying.
Okay, right, yes.
So I know that's another. Actually, there's two other things. I know that's another one that we've spoken about quite a lot, but I think it's important. It's important to flag it because I think people find it easy to disregard it.
Yeah.
And the other place, which is maybe this is kind of a strange one, but I thought about it because I think this applied to me when I was growing up. But you can feel invisible when you're the good child. So if you have siblings that, for one reason or another, create some sort of trouble in the family, it might be because they're mentally, their mental health is not great, or it might be because they're a bit wayward or whatever. But if you're the good one, if you're the one that kind of looks around you and says, actually, there's a lot of stress here, I think I better behave, one of the consequences of that can often be that you don't get the attention that you want because you're so good and you don't need that attention. Your parents will think, that's all right, I don't need to worry about you, you're okay. And I definitely felt that in my family. My brother and my sister both had their own kind of issues. And I worked hard to be kind of the good child. And I often felt that, my needs were completely overlooked as I got older. So I think that's another one that is kind of important to think about, because that invisibility comes from a place where you think, well, I've kind of tried to do everything that I was supposed to do. And it feels like sometimes it's backfired on me. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, because sometimes, I know you weren't the middle child, but that's sometimes referred to as middle child syndrome, where you sort of slip under the radar a little bit and you get left to your own devices. And there is a feeling of invisibility, but on the back of that, there's a feeling of you can get away with an awful lot more as well. So I think also I remember feeling quite invisible when I went off to the grammar school, where all of a sudden I was in the middle of the class rather than being at the top of the class. Yeah. And I felt invisible then, which is why I got into trouble really and did things just to make myself visible. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing.
Often people think about their kids. They say, "Oh, my kid's naughty." No, they're playing up because there's a reason for that. They're acting out for a reason. Maybe they're not getting what they need. Did you feel invisible when you got left out of the under-11s cup final?
Under 12s, yeah, I did. Yeah, not in the starting 11. Yeah.
Oh, that's one thing I was going to ask you. On a much more serious note.
Okay.
What happened? Was there a sense of invisibility, do you think, after Paul died?
For me?
Yeah, because, when there's a massive trauma in a family, all of that focus, tends to go on to whatever's happened. And if there are other children, as there obviously were in your family, I know you were older, sometimes that can kind of leave a vacuum.
Oh, I felt completely invisible. It was strange because obviously my parents were, if you remember, Paul was 21 when he died and I was 23, both still living at home. My older brother had got married and moved away anyway. So I was living at home where my parents were too involved with each other, comforting each other in that situation. My brother wasn't there and I was left pretty much on my own. Yes, the feeling of invisibility there was enormous. And I've talked about it before in the past. It's where I know my problems started to take hold, where I would rely on drink to get me through at that stage. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one to bear in mind, when something has come out of the blue at you in life and it's knocked everything sideways. So all of a sudden the world doesn't seem to be spinning on the same axis,
Exactly. So
devastating.
Well, yes, I can attest to that for sure. So how do we sort of get over there? How do we stop this feeling of invisibility? Because I've got one or two notes down here.
All right, go on. You give me yours, and I'll give you mine.
Because they're quite hard to put in place. Really, one of them is start advocating for yourself, start speaking up.
Yeah, assertiveness is important.
Yeah, because I think if you don't speak up, others are going to start treating you, without care and respect, aren't they? They'll get away with it with treating you poorly and making you feel invisible.
Yeah, I think building your levels of assertiveness is one of the most effective ways of starting to turn invisibility around. And I'll tell you why. The reason is because it's super practical. It's not an ethereal sort of feeling thing, which some people find more difficult. It's you can actually put this into practice. You can start pushing back. You can start speaking up for yourself. I think we may have spoken about it before, but there's going back to that thing about feeling invisible in relationships. I say to people, if you feel invisible in your relationship, start making a choice every time you're given a choice. So when your partner says, what do you want for dinner? What do you want to watch on telly? Where do you want to go? Make a choice. Even if you don't really have a particular feeling one way or the other, when you start to make a choice, you start to embolden yourself. You start to occupy more space in the relationship. So I think assertiveness is such a good one because there are tiny little ways in which you can do it and you can kind of build them up and they can get stronger and stronger and stronger until you start to feel as if you're kind of embodying yourself more.
Which is, again, going back to that starting small again, isn't it? Which, again, comes up quite often. There are lots of things we talk about in the past. You gently edge into it, don't you? You can't just rush in, because that would be quite difficult to pull off and quite dramatic for everyone. But, yeah, doing it slowly, I think it's quite...
if you feel invisible, you have to kind of gradually emerge.
Yeah. And that's all about also setting boundaries at that point, isn't it?
That's the other one.
And sticking to them, because you can be assertive without particularly putting boundaries in place, because the boundaries then will help that to continue on, won't it?
Yeah, and boundaries are a great one, because with boundaries, you can start small and it's a practical thing you can do. So, for instance, one of the ways in which people who feel invisible tend to behave is they say yes to everything.
Yeah,
because they never want to be rejected, excluded, ostracized.
Yeah.
And so if you're one of those people, you can start saying no to things that you don't want to do. Start small. Start with people that you feel safer with. When we've spoken about it a lot, but any time you can start speaking up for yourself and making a decision for yourself, no, I don't really want to do that. Thanks, but no thanks. It builds that muscle.
Yeah.
And so the more you do it, and the easier it then becomes to draw more significant boundaries where, for instance, you feel as if someone's disrespecting you or being rude to you, and you can say, actually, I don't want you speaking to me like that. Which, for people who feel invisible, when you say that to them, they think, God, I could never do that.
Yeah.
But you can. You have to just build up to it.
You do it. And it goes back to our old friend people-pleasing again as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people who feel invisible are fantastic at people-pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is moving away from that and putting those boundaries in place and being more assertive. That will stop people-pleasing happening, won't it?
Exactly.
And what about ignoring your own feelings? Because if you ignore those feelings, that's going to push you into that feeling of invisibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're putting other people's feelings above your own, for example, which touches on what you've just said there, really, to a certain extent.
Yeah. So not ignoring your own feelings is a key part of not feeling invisible.
Yeah.
You have to. That's it. You've got to become visible to yourself before you can become visible to other people.
Because I'd imagine that, if you do ignore your own feelings, then they're certainly not going to be important to other people if they're not important enough to you for you to get involved with them.
Exactly right. It's the classic, it's impossible to love someone who doesn't love themselves. So you will not get, I think you made this point last week, you will not get respect from people if you don't respect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it works with love as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Why should someone respect you if you don't respect you?
Yeah. Yeah.
People will treat you the way you treat yourself.
Before I come on to a sort of last winding up quote on this, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I think the only two things I can think of that you haven't mentioned are our old friend therapy. Therapy is a good option for people who feel invisible, because it tends to have been a long held feeling about oneself. And when you've developed something over a long time, quite often you need a bit of help to unpick it. So that'd be one thing. And I think the other thing is, this is a kind of perhaps more ethereal thing, but I think you have to find your people if you've felt invisible a lot of times. One of the great things we've said before about peer support is they'll immediately probably feel like your people. Oh, I've found my tribe. These are people who understand me. And if you can find people who you feel safe with, who you feel understand you, and you have some understanding of them, practicing methods of becoming more visible is always going to be easier, because you feel as if you're doing it in a safe environment. So I think it's worth remembering that not everyone's going to take to you. You don't have to be friends with everyone, but find your people and invest in that group. That does work nicely into this quotation I have here. Great.
As a sort of as rounding up the notes, and it goes like this: today I will see myself with loving eyes. I will be with others who can see me too. I will also find the right balance between expressing my own needs and supporting others. So that's going back to our old friend balance again, which helps out enormously.
Whose quote was that? Was it unattributed?
It's unattributed, yeah, but I quite like it.
It might have been Lionel Messi.
I I can't imagine him being, other than having a magical left foot. I don't think you don't see much of in the philosophy world, do you?
Well, maybe he'll have another career in philosophy after he finishes in football.
He's shown no signs so far, but it's always a possibility. You can reinvent, can't you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's true. We haven't done that, have we? Reinventing yourself.
I don't think we have. So I was going to come on to at this point then, as we've sort of wound up there, about or just our gratitude list.
Okay, I think it might be your turn first.
Okay. On my gratitude, it came up yesterday, really. I entered it on yesterday, even though I'd done my notes earlier on in the week. It came on yesterday. I always leave the gratitude list point blank until I get to just before the recording, because things can happen.
In case something crops up.
Yeah, it may usurp something else you thought of earlier in the week. But this one is, yesterday I was given my first school photo of my grandson.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Has he got his tie all askew, or don't they wear? I don't suppose they wear ties, do they?
Yeah, no, he had this sort of tie on, and he's looking very smart. And he's, did he have? I can't remember if he's got a tie on or not. To be honest, it's sort of to one side of him. It's sort of a side profile. But yeah, lovely.
Was he looking mischievous?
He's still got that twinkle in his eye. However you dress him up.
Whenever I think of William now, I think of him wiping bogies on the teacher.
He only did that once, and that was that was put to bed straight away. Yes,
it's great though, because that's the sort of thing he'll have done that'll go down through the ages.
Yeah,
it'll always be remembered.
It will, and I think that he doesn't realise it yet, but that will stick for many years to come.
Quite literally,
yeah. To the teacher as well. Did you ever wipe
a bogey on a teacher?
No, I didn't. No. I don't think I ever got close enough. I was quite shy at school, really, in my early years.
Yeah, we didn't have bogies in those days anyway, did we?
Weren't invented. No one had invented bogies then, no.
No, that's lovely. That is it. Are you going to put it in a place of prominence?
Absolutely right, yes. I should put it on my desk here somewhere, yeah.
Lovely. How lovely.
So what about yourself?
I'm grateful this week for my work. I was having a conversation with someone the other day. We were talking about work, and it struck me. You earlier on you were mentioning one of the reasons that we can end up kind of feeling invisible is aging.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about work and thinking how so many jobs, as you age, if you do something physical and practical, as you age, it becomes more difficult. So you get to the point where you can't do it, probably, or you can't do it as well. And with a lot of jobs also, you can reach a level of expertise and it's like, that's it. You kind of plateau then, and that's where you are. You know how to do your job and you kind of carry on through till the time that you stop. But one of the lovely things about my job is that theoretically, you can keep improving all the time because you're always learning stuff. There's always something new. There's always a new story. There's always a situation you haven't come across. And that feels like a real gift. So there, we both got very serious ones this week.
We have, haven't we, really? Yeah. Yeah, so you're
quite a serious episode, this.
It has been, yeah. Not much joking going on, is there, really?
We should bring up Rod Stewart, probably.
I've got one on about Mick Jagger that may make you laugh a little bit.
Excellent. Yeah, so anyway, that's what I'm grateful for this week.
And that's a good one. I do like that. Because we do, you're effectively then, you would never peak, not until your dying day, will you? You just keep getting stronger in that area.
That's right. I always remember this graph that a counsellor once drew for me. She was very helpful for me many years ago when I was struggling. And she drew this graph and it had, if you think about the line of your physical growth, it goes up as you get stronger and you grow up. And then as you get older, it declines again. Physically, we decline. I mean, you and I are physically declining, right? But then if you think about your spiritual and emotional growth, that line can keep going up all the time.
True.
It can keep increasing until the day you die, if that is what you choose.
Okay.
And that always feels to me as if it's an incredibly inspiring sort of thought. Yeah, you can if you want to keep learning, you can keep learning. Regardless of how crumbly your physical body is.
And that is a good point. And I think there's something quite nourishing about that. It probably keeps you a little bit younger, keeps your mind a bit agile as well. Obviously, there's things that can come along that can stop you thinking in certain ways. But yeah, it is a good point. It is a good point. So I was going to go on to the daysoftheyear.com.
Yeah.
Nothing particularly great, really. The first one that came to mind or came to my attention was Pins and Needles Day. Right? Now,
Pins and Needles Day?
yeah. It started in 1937. Now, you and I think about pins and needles as a sort of a fuzzy feeling in your arms or your legs or your feet or something, don't you?
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, you get up from, like, if you've sat on the toilet too long reading Exchange and Mar, or when Saturday comes, you stand up and your legs have all gone fuzzy, haven't they? Got pins and needles and you fall over.
That's exactly what I thought of.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking of, yeah.
But they're not really saying here that we should celebrate that.
Oh.
It came about in 1937. There was a Broadway musical called Pins and Needles with the same name. It was about women in the workplace.
Oh.
So and the value of their input. So it's really all about that.
Oh, okay. Because it's actually got a serious undertone.
It has.
So it's not about sitting on the toilet too long.
It's not, no.
Because I was just going to take myself off to the toilet, for an hour and a half and say, well, it is Pins and Needles Day.
Pins and Needles Day, yeah.
I was going to enjoy it.
Get your magazines out and away you go.
Maybe do a jigsaw.
Quite difficult on the toilet, really.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
The only others that came up really was the National Bavarian Cream Pie Day. Now, I don't know what Bavarian cream pie is really, but there's a day to celebrate it.
Well, I expect it's a cream pie from Bavaria.
Yeah, I mean, you're sort of in the chef line. You should know these things.
I don't know what that is. The only kind of confection that I know from Bavaria would be the old Black Forest Gatto.
Oh yeah.
So maybe it's I don't know. I mean, a cream pie probably does what it says on the tin, doesn't it? Yeah. I can't imagine. I wouldn't really fancy a pie that was just cream.
No.
Doesn't sound very nice, does it?
No, it doesn't sound very nice, and it's quite difficult to put a whole day aside to celebrate it. But apparently, it's there.
Well, you'd have to make it, wouldn't you? I'm just going to Google Bavarian cream pie now.
Okay. Whilst you're doing that, I'll just say the last one that came up was Turtle Adoption Day. So if you fancy adopting a turtle, today's your day, mate.
I don't really. Bavarian cream pie. Here we are. Okay. Bavarian cream pie. It just looks like, I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like a kind of a custard tart.
Oh, does it?
Kind of, yeah. I like a custard tart, but why don't they just call it a custard tart?
Well, because it doesn't sound sexy enough, mate, does it? You've got to put something on it.
Well, I think a custard tart sounds quite sexy.
It's a bit rude. Anyway, on this day in music, a couple of things. In 1981, and you'll probably remember this.
Yeah.
When the British phonographic industry started putting out adverts, we saw them on telly. Do you remember them? That home taping was wiping out music.
Yeah, I do remember that.
You remember that? But who didn't love putting a little mixtape together for a mate or a girlfriend or something? You used to get your C60, didn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, you'll remember I used to make one probably most weeks for the minstrel.
You did, didn't you? Yeah.
And I used to go down, they used to give them a tape. I used to get a free pint from mixtapes. It was a win-win because I loved making them.
Yeah.
I used to go buy records in Saturday afternoon specifically to make a new mixtape.
Yeah.
And I'd go down the pub, have a free pint, listen to the music that I'd chosen.
Yeah.
What could be better?
There's a real joy in putting those together, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
It was, especially when you first started to get cassette players in your car, so you could take your mixtape out in the car. It's just a real joy. And it didn't wipe out music; it survived. I mean, it's under more threat now with the streaming services. So,
do you reckon anybody took heed of those adverts and thought, "Oh, I mustn't tape the charts off the radio tonight because home taping is killing music"?
No one did. The same as no one's really taken account of streaming, what the damage that's doing.
No.
Or how it's affecting the income of the musicians.
No.
It reminded me when I read that, I thought, I remember exactly that at the time. But, by that time, I've been doing it for years, even though in the early days, we just put a microphone against the speaker on your stereogram on a Sunday night and record the top 20.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, but in 1964, Mick Jagger, who we talked about earlier on, he was fined £16 for driving offences, probably quite a lot. In 1964. But you've got to remember the context of what I'm just about to tell you. Now, in 1964, people with long hair were considered a bit weird. Mm-hmm. It was it was an unacceptable hairstyle, wasn't it? Anything over as soon as it got to your collar, you needed to have it cut. Mm-hmm. And so when he went to court, his solicitor was keen to sort of put across that although he had long hair, he was a nice person.
Yeah.
And I think in his closing statement, his solicitor said, the Duke of Marlborough had longer hair than my client, and he won many famous battles. His hair was powdered because of fleas. My client has no fleas. That is a great defence, isn't it?
You'd definitely hire that lawyer again, wouldn't you?
You'd change your solicitor, wouldn't you? Yeah. That's the best he can come up with. Please don't send him to jail. He hasn't got fleas.
You were doing 120 miles an hour in an 80 limit, but he hasn't got fleas.
Yes. I'll see. But if you go down the Duke of Marlborough in Maidstone, there's some people with fleas going there, I imagine. Certainly people with long hair. When there's a gig on.
I've never been in the Duke of Marlborough.
Have you not?
No.
No, it's probably not the time to start, mate.
Don't really go in pubs much now.
Anyway, that's
You spoiled that for me.
What, going in pubs?
Yeah.
Why is that? You've become too aware.
Well, because you was selfish enough to become an alcoholic.
Oh yeah,
and then couldn't go in pubs.
Couldn't go in pubs. I can now, and but you don't want to anymore, do you?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's out of your system. They hold no allure.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. All right.
Good. Okay, mate.
See you next time.
See you later.
Laters.
Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.